Hello world, welcome back to my channel. Just kidding, nobody watches this anyway. In this video, I am going to discuss how I made a retro console add-on for the PS5 controller and how to use it. Let's go! Since the days of the PS4, I had an idea of a retro console attachment to its controller. But I got the inspiration from an Xbox chatpad. You know, the tiny QWERTY keypad that you can attach to an Xbox controller. So why didn't I just get a PS4 controller? It is cheaper and more mature anyway, and I can't utilize the features of the PS5 controller playing PS1 games. True, that's a fair point, but what we have here is a PS5 controller just because PS5. Oh well, here's the PS5 DualSense controller alongside the PS2 DualShock 2 controller. The PS5 controller is heavier, but that's because it has a battery and all the bells and whistles in it. Do you see this headphone jack right here? That's what we are going to use to attach the retro console add-on. Making the enclosure for the retro console add-on is tricky because of how the bottom corner of the PS5 controller is shaped. So I think let's discuss the electronic side of things first before the mechanical aspect of it. You might be already familiar with this tiny computer called the Raspberry Pi Zero-W. If you're not familiar with Raspberry Pis or single board computers for that matter, I suggest you look into it.
여선 테트리스도 안 돌아요.
Wait, what? Isn't the one on the scene a Raspberry Pi 3B+? It is actually more powerful than the Zero-W, which is used in this project. Anyway, the Raspberry Pi Zero-W has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, unlike the Raspberry Pi Zero, hence the W. The PS5 controller will be connected to the Raspberry Pi Zero-W via Bluetooth. There is also this Raspberry Pi Zero-WH, but the difference is that it already has an installed header on it for its GPIO. Also, it is a little more expensive. The one I have here is really a Raspberry Pi Zero-W, and I am the one who soldered the header here. I am going to use this one with the header for prototyping. If you are going to get one, I suggest the Raspberry Pi Zero-W because it is thinner and you can solder your own header anytime. Take a drink every time he says Raspberry Pi. Here's my breadboard setup for this project. This is a 2.4-inch LCD that has a resolution of 320 by 240. Its LCD controller is an ILI 9341, which is popular in projects. No, it is not a touchscreen. The driver that I'm going to use, called FBCP ILI 9341, does not support touch anyway. But it is a blazing fast display driver, as said on the project description. The audio is not that straightforward, because Raspberry Pi Zeros doesn't have an audio output outright besides the HDMI. So what I will do is to remap one of the GPIO pins for PWM to output audio. I just implemented this amplifier circuit that I found on Instructables to use for this tiny speaker that I have. The link is on the video description if you are interested in it. Don't forget the Raspberry Pi Zero-W. I've already made an SD card image for it. The SD card image is based on Raspbian Stretch, and I installed RetroPie on top of it. I think Buster has some audio problem. I can't get any sounds on PCSX rearmed. I will add a user button, user slide switch, and a user LED on the project assembly. A 3.7 volt 1000 mAh battery will be used to power this project. The Adafruit PowerBoost 1000C will be used in charging the battery and converting the voltage to 5 volts. I also have this LipoRider Plus by Seed Studio, but I think there's a problem with the charging if there is a load. I guess that's okay, given the price of it is $4.9 compared to the Adafruit PowerBoost 1000C, which is $19.95. I hope that they will update the Adafruit PowerBoost to USB Type-C though. Okay, let's move on to the casing. Remember that the retro console add-on will go right here on the bottom of the PS5 controller. I have printed many models to see the fitting, and I made adjustments based on those. I intended to have the project enclosure to hold onto the controller handle itself, but no dice. It is tricky. Let me know if you have any tips to easily prototype tricky enclosures. This might have been easier if I have a 3D scanner. Yes, it is normal to iterate on many designs before settling on one. I used epoxy to put the headphone plug in its place. I also added some pads to minimize scratches on the PS5 controller. I became too generous on the application of epoxy and super glue. Anyway, let's now put the electronics on this enclosure. Let the time lapse begin. Nice. Now let's have a quick overview of the project. The user button and the user slide switch are located here on the LCD module itself. I have cut the PCB of the LCD module a bit to make it fit on the enclosure. I also desoldered many components from it to make it thinner. I used its PCB to mount it on the case. The user button is soldered on the header pad for the unpopulated touchscreen controller, and I cut the PCB traces just in case some component here might interfere with our button. Now for the user slide switch, I removed the SD card slot and also cut the traces for it and used its header pads. The power switch is in here. For the power status, we have 3 LEDs located on the bottom area of the Adafruit PowerBoost 1000C. Red indicates that we are running out of battery. Yellow indicates that the battery is charging. And the green one indicates that the battery is fully charged. The user LED and well, the LED power indicator is supposed to be alongside the LCD, but I ran out of space. So I put them on the bottom part instead. The single speaker is located here on the left side. The amplifier circuit for it is combined with the USB port. You can connect devices here if you want. The SD card is accessible on this side of the case. Finally, we are done with the project, but not with the video. Let's play some PS1 games like the video title says. Digimon Rumble Arena is a classic for me. And also Crash Team Racing. Now to the third game we will test. Harvest Moon Back to Nature is actually my girlfriend's favorite game growing up. The PS1 emulator I used is PCSX Rearm. It is recommended for low spec systems. Okay, for the next one, I've installed a Gameboy Advance emulator too. Harvest Moon Friends of Mineral Town is I think supposed to be the remake of Harvest Moon Back to Nature. Megaman Zero. I should have played a Megaman game 2 on the PS1 emulator, but oh well. Sure, we can play a Pokemon game too if you're into that. We can also try other emulators and games, but maybe next time. By the way, yes, you can play like this if you want. There are definitely things that I can improve upon on this project. I want to add a headphone jack to it, have a custom PCB for this project, rework the case, add many user buttons and LEDs, and many other things. The charging port should also be parallel to the ground because charging it at an angle is kinda funny. Oh well. Any thoughts on what to add, remove, and polish with the project? Let me know in the comments. Are you going to make your own retro console add-on too? How about one for an Xbox controller, for a PS4, or any other console controller? Or maybe you have already made one. I think that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Till next time.